have to answer me verbally.
Yes.
All right. Mr. McCormick, is that your understanding?
It is, Your Honor.
And Mr. McNamara, is that yours as well?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Blainey, before I can accept your plea, I'm going to ask you some questions. The clerk will place you under oath.
Raise your right hand, please, as best you can. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Blainey, if you move a little closer to the microphone so we can all hear you. How far along did you get in school? What's your educational background?
GED.
I know you spent a lot of time in jail. Any education in jail beyond that?
That's where I got my GED. Jail.
Right. Have you worked?
Yes.
What kind of jobs have you held?
I worked for the caretaker at St. Joseph Cemetery on Chaplain Ave when I got out.
How long did you do that?
No, 2 years.
A couple of years? Do you have any problems today, Mr. Blainey, either physically or mentally?
Not yet.
All right. That in any way interfere with your understanding of what we're talking about?
No, I'm good.
And I know you spent time with Mr. McCormick, not only today, but before today as well. And he's reviewed these charges with you together with your rights and options. Is that correct?
Yes.
Are you satisfied with the way he's represented you here? I told you what the sentence is going to be. If you're not getting out, do you understand that?
Let's do it.
All right, all right. Anybody else promise you anything to get you to plead guilty? Anyone threaten you to get you to plead guilty?
No.
So you're entering this plea here this morning voluntarily.
Yes, I am.
Let me just explain to you, Mr. Blainey, what your rights are. And if you plead guilty here this morning, you'll be waiving or giving up these rights. You do have a right to a trial by jury and to have your attorney with you at the trial. That will not happen, obviously, if you plead guilty. You understand that?
Yes.
If there were a trial from a whole pool of candidates as prospective jurors, we'd ultimately select 12 to be the jury. And then at the end of the case, they would all have to agree as your guilt or non-guilt. The district attorney has to prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. That means a trial would have to produce witnesses. Those witnesses would testify here in court in front of you and in front of Mr. McCormick, and then he would have the opportunity on your behalf to confront those witnesses. We need to question and cross-examine them. As a defendant, you have a right to remain silent. Means you don't have to say anything or do anything or prove anything. But if this case were to proceed to trial and you wanted to testify for yourself, you could. That's entirely your choice. No one can force you or compel you to testify. And you're able to call witnesses if you want. And if you plead guilty, it's the same as if the jury had heard all the evidence and concluded that you were in fact guilty. Do you understand those rights?
Yep.
Do you have any questions about any one of them? And you realize, Mr. Blainey, if you plead guilty here this morning, you'll be giving all those rights up.
Yep.
All right, now you're charged in the first count of this indictment with murder in the first degree. It's alleged that on November 2nd, 2011, in the city of Utica, you were over 18 years old, and that's true, isn't it?
Yes.
At that time, over in North Utica, at the, what's the name of the motel, Mr.?
Davis Motel.
Davis Motel. You intentionally caused the death of Linda Turner, who was the owner of the place. In the course of her committing a robbery, a burglary, and/or I guess all of them apply pretty much, and a rape in the first degree. And obviously, Ms. Turner was a victim and not a participant in the crime. Do you admit that to be true?
I do.
Now, I'm going to ask you some questions, and then Mr. McNamara is going to ask some questions about what happened here. Okay? How long had you been at the Davis Motel prior to November 2nd? Do you remember?
Since Halloween.
So the 31st of October.
Yep.
And you were sort of squatting there, staying there, right?
Sure I was.
You weren't renting a place. In fact, did Miss Turner even know you were in the place?
Not to my knowledge.
Now, what happened on November 2nd? Did you see her for the first time on November 2nd?
Yeah, I think that's about the time it was.
Right.
Somewhere around there.
Day or night? Do you remember?
Probably about the afternoon.
All right. Now, as I understand it, a client of the motel came in to register, and Miss Turner, I'm sorry, exited the office area, which was actually her home as well, and took this client to her room. Is that correct?
Yep.
All right. And when that was happening, and she was no longer in the office, is that when you went into the office of the home?
Yes.
All right. And you knew at the time you went in there, you didn't have permission or consent to be there.
Yes.
Did you have something with you?
No, I didn't.
Did you have a rope with you?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, actually I did.
Why did you have the rope?
In case things got out of hand.
All right. To control it, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. And your intent when you went in there was what?
Robbery.
All right. To steal.
Yeah.
All right, what do you intend to steal?
I was looking for money.
All right, and you knew when you're in there at the time, you're in her home,
Yep.
you're armed essentially with this clothesline,
Yep.
and you knew you didn't have permission or consent to be there.
Yep.
How long were you in there before Miss Turner, returned?
5 minutes.
Where were you when she returned?
Behind a small folding door.
You were hidden.
Yep.
She didn't see you when you first came in. Describe the area for me, if you would.
Yeah, not really much to describe. Small.
Is there an office there with a...
Oh, as you go in, there's a big living room. Go down a little bit, about 10, 15 foot. To the right is a bedroom.
Yeah.
It's in there behind the door.
All right. Is the first part of it an office or not?
Yes.
Okay, so you had to go through the office and actually get into her living quarters, is that correct?
Yep.
So you hid in the area near the bedroom then? And after she entered her home, what happened?
One of us had to go, and sure as hell wasn't going to be me.
Okay, so it was her, you killed her. All right, you raped her too, didn't you?
Yeah.
All right. And how did you kill her?
Strangled.
All right. With what?
Started with the clothesline, I lost that, then it was a belt. That didn't work, so I used my hand.
All right. So, as I understand it, initially you used a clothesline, is that correct? And she fought you pretty hard, didn't she?
Yeah,
You weren't able to control her with that, is that right?
pretty much.
Yes or no?
Pretty much.
All right. Did you then what'd you do? Did you have to, where did you get the belt?
It was hers.
Did she have it on?
Yep.
All right. You took her clothes off her?
Yes, sir, I did.
You raped her, right?
Yes, sir.
And at the time you were using the belt around her neck as well?
Yep.
And your hands?
Yep.
Ultimately, she was deceased, am I correct? You
Yeah.
killed her.
As far as I know.
Well, you know she's dead, right?
No, yeah, by now, I'm here.
All right. So after all this happened, what'd you do?
I left.
All right. How long were you?
Car went to Pennsylvania.
You got caught in Pennsylvania, right? You had some of her property. You had a car and other property, right?
Yep.
So you stole all that. Mr. McNamara, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Blainey, when you were inside of the office area, which is also Mrs. Turner's home, when you entered, was it your intent to steal money?
Yes, sir.
And when you were inside of that hotel office area, which was also her home, when she came back in, did you hide so that she couldn't see you?
Yes, sir, I did.
And did she come in and did she sit down in her chair and start to eat her dinner?
Yep.
And it's my understanding that at some point, as she was eating, her phone rang.
Yep.
And at that point, she came in looking for the cordless phone.
Yep.
And that's the time that you attacked her.
Yes, sir.
And so as the judge has asked you, initially you started to choke her with a piece of clothesline that you brought with you.
Yep.
Mrs. Turner actually scratched you on your face, correct?
Yep.
She scratched you in your mouth also, correct?
Yep.
She also tried to hurt you by grabbing at your genitals, correct?
Yep.
But with all of that fighting, you still were able to overcome her resistance and subdue her, correct?
Yep.
And after you subdued her, you took her clothes off, well, you took her pants and her underpants off, correct?
Yep.
You pushed her shirt and her bra up above her breasts, correct?
Yep.
And after you got her pants off, you took her belt out of her pants and you used that to choke her, correct? And after you had her under control, you then raped her by placing your penis in her vagina, correct?
Yep.
And you ejaculated inside of Miss Turner, correct?
Yep.
You would have no reason to dispute the fact that the semen found inside of Miss Turner's vagina is your DNA. There's one male's DNA inside of her, and that DNA matches you. You would have no reason to dispute that, correct?
Obviously not.
After you, how many times did you rape Miss Turner?
Once.
After you had raped her and after she was deceased, did you then find money in her bedroom?
Yep.
And was that in a dresser drawer of hers?
Yes, it was.
Did you take that money?
Yep.
And as you were leaving the office area, did you also take the keys to her motor vehicle?
Yes, I did.
When you were stopped by the Pennsylvania State Police, there was cash in the center console of Ms. Turner's vehicle. Is that the cash you took from her office? There's also numerous pairs of women's underwear. Where did those come from?
Beats the hell out of me,
Did you put them in that car?
maybe.
Mr. Blainey, when this happened, you were out on parole, am I correct?
Yep.
That was for another rape, right?
Yep.
You've had how many rapes in the past?
Too many.
I'm sorry?
Too many.
Too many. You sort of can't help yourself, is that right? Did in fact, the last time you were released, did you tell parole board or someone that they shouldn't let you out?
Yep.
All right, you're satisfied?
Yes.
All right. How do you plead then, Mr. Blainey, to the first count murder and the first degree guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Mr. McNamara, would that plea to satisfy all counts of the indictment be satisfactory to the people?
With the understanding he would be sentenced to life imprisonment without parole, yes, Your Honor.
I'm satisfied by the defendant's responses to my questions and his demeanor in court that he's had a sufficient and adequate opportunity to discuss with counsel the charges in the indictment as well as his rights and options. He understands all of those as well as the nature and consequence of the plea, which he's entered into this morning freely, knowingly, and voluntarily. I'll accept the plea. I'll order a report from probation, scheduled sentence.
March 16th?
15?
16.
16. March 16th sentence.
Your Honor, may I make a brief statement?
Sure.
Thank you.
I should have given you the opportunity earlier. I know you wanted to do it earlier, but go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is a rather extraordinary circumstance. Obviously, in this case, there was really no offer. The offer was to receive the maximum sentence allowable under the law should Robert elect to plead guilty to the top count of the indictment. During the course of my representation of Robert, I've met with him on a few occasions at the county jail. We've had very affable, lengthy conversations. I've at all times informed him as to the best of my knowledge and completely and fully informed him about all the evidence in the case. I've held a very long, extensive discussion with Mr. McNamara, a pretrial discovery conference, and Mr. McNamara was very gracious about opening his entire file and allowing me to have copies of absolutely any documents, any and all documents that I wanted. He went very methodically through all the evidence contained in his file. Further, we examined photographs in this case, and in fact, he gave me the actual flash drive, the, what's that called?
Flash drive.
The flash drive, that the pictures are contained on. There probably were hundreds of pictures, and they concerned a lot of the scene of the crime and other evidence in the crime. And I actually prepared a copy of all the documents that Mr. McNamara had given me at the conclusion of our pretrial discovery conference, and offered Robert a copy. He's denied accepting that copy right now, but I've told him at any time I'm very willing to give him absolutely every document that I contain in my file. Further, Mr. McNamara answered every single question I could possibly have about the case, about any suspects, leads, detective work, police work done in the case, any forensic evidence. He's turned over a copy of the DNA reports. So I'm incredibly satisfied with Mr. McNamara's compliance with the discovery rules, and I appreciate his consideration in that respect. Further, I obviously, when I first talked to Robert, and even before I talked to him, just given the nature of the case, I was very, very concerned with possibility of any mental health problems. I contacted my licensed psychologist from Syracuse, Dr. Norman Leswing, and on December 27th, he met with Robert and had a very lengthy conversation with him that I was present for. Dr. Leswing has submitted a memorandum that I have in my file that says he's found absolutely no exculpatory or mitigating psychiatric conditions existing in Robert that would support any type of legal insanity defense or any other type of psychiatric defense that I could possibly consider interposing. So given that, I was still rather shocked by Robert's adamant insistence on pleading guilty. But certainly, as the court's well aware, the ultimate decision whether to enter a plea of guilty or not is my client's. And I can't impose my will or my beliefs upon him. So this is his, I think, well-considered, rational, very intelligent. I found him to be very intelligent. He's got an incredible recollection. His memory's excellent. His recollection of certain details of his life and his past, and he's mentally, he's very astute. But I just wanted the court to be fully informed of this, because obviously this is a rare occurrence.
I know you wanted to put that in the record, I should have done that earlier. Mr. Blainey, you agree with everything Mr. McCormack has said?
Yep.
There's a chill in the air here, Mr. Blainey. You're the coldest person I've ever seen in this courtroom. You can
Thank
take
you for
it
a
away.
compliment.
A compliment?
Yeah.
You think that's a compliment? I didn't mean it to be a compliment.
Thanks anyway.
Okay, we'll see you on the 16th of March.
Thank you, Your Honor.